Okay, guys, welcome to phase five. So here in phase five, right, this is essentially the miscellaneous section per se, mainly because the videos inside of this section I didn't really find a place for inside of the beginning phases, right? Because obviously phase one is your introduction, phase two is your structure recap, phase three is learning our concepts, and phase four is learning Wyckoff, right? So see phase five is a miscellaneous section where I'm going to continuously add videos if necessary, if requested. Um, so with that being said, right, the point of this video is, what pairs do you trade? What pairs should you trade? So for the majority of traders that have never been exposed to RCV material or anything in regards to it, right, maybe have never even had a teacher or any type of guidance, right, I'd say the majority of traders will trade anywhere from, I say, at least 5 pairs and up to maybe even more than 15, right? And you just have a watch list full of pairs. Um, and for I think that's that because one, I don't think we know any better. Two, right? They kind of want to chase that setup. They want to have that setup on a regular basis. Excuse me. Right. So when you put those two together, I mean, obviously that's probably like a recipe for disaster, right? And you see a bunch of losses because you don't understand the pairs that you're trading and you're trying to trade too many pairs at one time, right? Like me personally, like I can't look at more than 2 pairs at a time because like my attention span won't be there and my full focus won't be there. So if that's not there, then it's hard for me to even take a rational execution, right? So if I can't take a rational execution, then the probabilities of having a favorable outcome are very, very slim, right? Because I'm not justifying what I'm doing, right? So allowing yourself, right, to trade less pairs will contribute to developing this quote unquote patience factor, right? So everything, in my opinion, revolves around patience, not patience with the process, right? Patience with yourself as a whole, right? Because if you can apply patience not only to trading but to life, you'll see a lot of great, quote unquote, rewards down the road. Just because time, right? Time is limited, but time is semi abundant, right? Because we do have, majority of us will live over what, 50 to 70 years. And that's irrelevant, right? But I'm just saying, right, the time, there is no rush when it comes to time, right? The only rush that is present is the rush that you have on yourself. So if you can't develop that patience factor, then seeing success in trading is going to be very, very hard. And that's just the reality of it. But anyways, right, back to the quote unquote, what pairs should you trade? Sorry about that. Right. So in my opinion, right, when you limit the amount of pairs, right, you get to narrow your focus down to specifically whether it's two, three, four. I'd say no more than 3 to 4, in my opinion, right? Because as you can see, right, if you see on the in the webinars, right, you guys have seen that this has been my watch list for, I'd say, like 7 months at least, right? I used to trade. I think I used to trade AU, a couple of the pairs, GA, gold. I'll trade gold occasionally, but for the most part, I try to keep my main focus on 3 specific pairs, right? Why? Because these pairs I've been trading for well over a year and a half, right? And two, because I've traded them for so long, I kind of understand how they move, right? So when you understand how a pair moves, right, you understand tendencies, you're able to read them, analyze them, and make actions based on them, right? So when that happens, right, you're able to make that rational conclusion to as to why you should take a certain type of execution, right? So this leads to understanding the whole power, behind quality over quantity, right? You essentially are converting from surfing through pairs to find a specific setup to now narrowing your pairs and knowing what exactly type of setup you're looking for, right? Hopefully I didn't chop that up too much. But anyways, right, when you're choosing your pairs, you have to first realize when you're available to trade, right? Whether it's New York, whether it's London, whether it's both, whether it's Asia session even, right? You have to find pairs that are, essentially active during these hours, right? And, you could honestly, you could go to baby pips off that, but that's something that's very, very easy to find, right? Knowing what pairs move or what currencies move at what times, right? So just use that as a initial guide, right? To essentially narrow down the types of pairs you should be looking at, right? So now after you've based this on quote unquote trading sessions, right? You have to narrow this down to, in my opinion, no more than 3 to 4, like we already stated, right? I think that's a solid amount, and I don't think you need much more to get a even 2 to 3 good setups a week, depending on what kind of trader you are, obviously, right? But the more that you narrow it, I feel like the better. Like for the most part, I trade EU for the most part, right? And that's, it's only one pair. And even if I'm only getting 20, 30 pips a day, or 20, 30 pips every 2 to 3 days, right? It's consistent, right? And the longevity, will end up causing those big winners, right? And obviously compounding growth and, all that stuff. But anyways, yeah, for the most part, when it comes to knowing what pairs to trade, right? Know your sessions, right? Know when you're available to trade, right? And find pairs based on that, right? And then obviously you will start, looking into pair behaviors, which is what we're going to talk about later in this section, and everything of such. So for the most part, that concludes this first video, and I'll see you guys in the next one.